You guys do not have a head coach. Nebraska fired Scott Frost earlier this season, and Nebraska is still aggressive on the recruiting trail. Who's calling the shots to bring in official visitors, to put out new offers? How's this happening? How's it functioning?
Yeah, it's interesting to see because we saw Nebraska make a 2025 quarterback offer yesterday. They made a 2024 in-state offer to an Omaha Central player. That was his first offer. But I think that's Mickey Joseph in a nutshell. He really wants to make a run at things. He's the interim head coach. He's operating as if he's the head coach right now, and he's going about it. They've got a really good recruiting personnel guy behind the scenes who's in his first year named Vince Ginta. He was actually Dave Aranda's personnel guy at Baylor the previous few seasons, had been at Nebraska before. He's worked for Urban Meyer. He's worked at Wisconsin. He's worked at Oregon State. So they've got a really good behind the scenes recruiting guy as well that helps kind of manage and push the buttons. And they're out. I mean, they went last week on the bye week. They went to 13 games and over 30 schools they visited as a staff just over the bye weekend alone. And, you'd be hard pressed to find numbers like that with any team in the college football on a bye week.
Yeah, they're out there pounding the recruiting trail. How is the 2023 commitment class holding up? Has there been any fractures in it? What's going to happen here with the commitment class?
Well, they've lost just one guy, Cam Linhart from IMG Academy. He decommitted the day the defensive coordinator, Eric Chenander, was fired. And that's not a surprise. He was really connected to Chenander. But the other guys have all stayed on board. And they weren't looking at taking any more than 17 or 18. I think they're at 13 right now. So, they're at a pretty good number of guys as it is, considering the situation. I mean, the key is, can they keep all of these guys locked into the class over the course of the next few months? And I think a lot of kids are in a wait and see. They want to see who Nebraska hires as their coach. And then see what coaches might be retained on the staff. So there are a lot of elements to this that need to play out, and it's hard to just move around. I mean, a lot of schools are full right now. It's not like everybody has this extra spots open. So I think this will be in a holding pattern probably until late November.
Yeah, Mickey Joseph's the interim, and the assistants. Nobody really has any guarantees, including Mickey Joseph. Nobody knows if in a couple months they're still going to be at Nebraska. So what's their message to recruits at this point?
The message really is recruit to the school, not the coach. You go to Nebraska to go to Nebraska, and the school itself, the fan base, the tradition, the resources, the opportunity. You're not going there for one assistant coach or one head coach necessarily. That is a factor. There's no doubt. But you should look at a lot of things. And, they are fortunate that a lot of their recruits are local area guys. I mean, you look at the number of kids from the state of Nebraska. They've got a good chunk of those guys. They've got a guy that's from Colorado in their recruiting class right now. So, Kansas City recruit. There's just a lot of guys locally already committed to them. And that will play a factor. Then there's a group of kids that are Mickey Joseph players, like Omarion Miller. He's a 4-star. So, if Mickey Joseph is retained, a couple of these guys like Barry Jackson, Omarion Miller, you would think would stay on board regardless because of Coach Joseph.
Do you see any scenario where Mickey Joseph and his staff recruit so well that they are pressured to keep them on in a full-time basis?
I think you're going to have to see anywhere from 1 to 3 of these assistants retained. And I mean, that's just my guess. And I think 1 or 2 is probably the safe bet. And, Mickey Joseph might be that guy. Yeah, Bill Bush, the interim defensive coordinator, he's brand new as well. They were both on the Ed Orgeron LSU staff that won the national championship. Bill Bush brought Joe Burrow. He was the guy that stood on the table to bring Joe Burrow to LSU. And by the way, Joe Burrow is a Husker legacy, and I know a lot of our Nebraska fans watching know that. So he's one of the best recruiters out there. So those 2 guys jump out immediately. And the running backs coach, Brian Applewhite, he brought in Anthony Grant, who was former Florida State player at one time, and he's having an outstanding season for Nebraska right now. And A.J. Allen, who he brought in, is having an outstanding year. He's hurt now for the rest of the season. But there's 3 guys right there that have a lot of value that, if they were to keep anybody, those would probably be the 3 guys I would zone in on.
All right, Sean, this isn't really a recruiting question, but since I got you here, let's say they don't promote within and they go outside of the current staff to make a hire. Who, in your opinion, would be a good fit at Nebraska?
I mean, it's like a 2-hour special on HBO. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can go with this, but I think 3 or 4 names jump out today. I mean, I think Dave Aranda is towards the top of the dream list of guys. He really fits the type of coach that Trev Alberts wants, a highly intelligent, just high character guy that wins, kind of does things in the right way. I think Lance Leipold at Kansas is on that list. I think you can go. I mean, those are 2 that just jump out. Matt Campbell at Iowa State, Bill O'Brien at Alabama. I mean, those seem to be the ones right now that are getting the most steam. I like Dave Doran too at North Carolina State. In 2012, I know he was interested if that job would have opened. Bo Pelini verbally took the Arkansas job. Then after the disastrous Big 12 championship game, the Razorbacks pulled back and actually hired Brett Bielema over Bo Pelini. But Doran was a guy at that time I know that was interested. So would he be interested now? I don't know. But I think they can pay. That's the key. Nebraska will pay what it takes. If it's $8 to $10 million, they will have that kind of money because they're in the Big Ten Conference, and Nebraska will have that kind of revenue if it is the right coach that would require that kind of money.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me, and remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.